Radio Man's YouTube channel, the dumbest little CB channel on YouTube. So today's video is titled Minuteman Communications, Minuteman Commo Guy. And this topic came up recently with a discussion with a local, and we were, friendly disagreement, I would say, and it kind of spurred an idea for a YouTube video. Is that his contention is that CB radio, and people that watch this, mind you that my channel is based in CB radio communications, but this can be applied to GMRS, MERS, amateur radio. Basically, he was saying is that it is not a lifeline type of form of communications, and I was kind of disagreeing and saying that yes, 99.9% of the time, this is largely a form of social media. Some would argue the original form of social media, but I would say that 0.1% of the time is that these modes of communication can be used to get information, other sources of information. When I'm doing this, I'm just kind of glancing down at some notes here. So to kind of answer the question, what is the Minuteman Commo Guy? Well, you can almost think of it much like a civilian, much like a volunteer firefighter. You go to work, you do your thing, you're a family man, and the need may come to a point where you may need to fall back on those communications other than for fun and chit chat. This person would be the person in the household that's responsible for information gathering and communications, possibly in your neighborhood, community, group, church group, whatever. And you'd be responsible, largely for communications monitoring. You can make that choice. Maybe you want to talk, maybe you don't, and you just want to passively listen. The point that I'm going to kind of make with these videos is that, I get people that come in my channel, ham radio. Largely my channel is devoted to kind of the fun aspect of it, but I can kind of see through the analytics that there are people that are coming to my channel that are coming from a different route and they're interested in this information. So I may do a little bit of a video series on this. And some of these people might not even be interested in getting an amateur radio license for a lot of different reasons. Some people may just want to put some money down on the counter, buy some equipment, and just start operating. But if you get more interested in it, you can segue into amateur radio. You can spend a little money and get a GMRS license. I'm largely focused on the CB radio aspect, but anyways, you might see me. I tried to collect some of my thoughts here because this is a little bit more of a, not serious, but a little bit more of an involved topic. So, kind of the explanation of hobby versus necessity communications. We can use this stuff for fun and to be prepared. I kind of equate the argument that we were having about lifeline communications not being a factor is that I kind of equate this stuff to, and I actually have some props for this video. It's like having a smoke detector in your home. We hope that we never have to use that smoke detector, but somebody in the home needs to be responsible for the maintenance and care of that smoke detector so that it works. It's the same thing, like a lot of us have these in our kitchens, maybe next to a wood stove if you heat with wood heat. Some people, we carry these in our cars. A lot of times, people have had, you could have one of these for 20 or 30 years and thank God you never have to use it. But we still need to know how to maintain these things, how to use them. Maybe if you're like, shit, I've had this thing for 20 years. Well, take it out in the backyard and practice using it. Spend the thing before you get a new one. So the point I'm making is that, having a citizens band radio like this, right? We can have fun with it, but there may become you may have that one instance where you're going to have to use it as a necessity versus something as entertainment. It's like having a first aid kit or anything like that. The other thing that I want to, maybe a fire extinguisher you don't have fun with, but the other thing I was going to point out here, and Radio Man's ready for the zombies here. these are a shitload of fun to go plinking in the pit. But we also know that this is a tool, right? And this tool can be used to defend life and property. But 99% of the time, I'm just having a shitload of fun with this thing. Going out and plinking targets with it in the pit. So, the same thing with one of these, right? This is a shitload of fun. Set that down there instead of trying to reholster on video. So that's kind of the point I'm making, is that people will argue, well, we have cell phones. Well, I was going to pull up my cell phone, but that's what I'm recording with right now. We have cell phones. I can recount a couple times in my life there was an earthquake in this area, and I tried to contact my parents after the earthquake. It was, living in New England, earthquakes are nothing. But it was kind of a big deal because they never happen up here. I got the all circuits were busy when I went to use my cell phone. The other thing, I just want to make sure I've covered everything here. So this kind of hit me the other day. I was talking to a young person at work, and I had mentioned about how drastic liberties that we took for granted prior to 9/11, that we gave up some of our liberties in exchange for security, which a lot of people argue that is not a good thing. We did, and I have noticed that a lot of when I talk with my friends that, we were all in our 20s when 9/11 happened, and we all recount how much society has changed since then. And talking to this young person at work, he was 3 years old. He doesn't know any different. And I would say that since COVID-19 has happened, our governments have used the pandemic as an excuse to take some more of our liberties. One of the things that I would like to point out was that when we talk about, as I'm recording on this phone right now, is that we agree to allow, when we use our phone, the location data. Now, it doesn't really they tell us that it doesn't say who we are, but these private companies get our location data, and we agree to it. And governments are now paid to get that location data. And we found out that during the COVID-19 pandemic, governments were taking that information and using it to try to determine if people were congregating. It wasn't necessarily they go, oh, Joe Smith is at the Piggly Wiggly. It was more or less that they could see gatherings. From what I was told and from what I understand, and I tend to believe it, is that they could just see, they were just points on a map. So during a situation, as things go, it seems like more and more liberties get stripped a little bit. There may come a time where you're going to want to leave your phone at home in a Faraday bag when you want to go out and get food, when you want to go out. I'm not a super religious person, but maybe to meet with a church group to pray. There may come times you're going to want to use communications like this, and in my opinion, even though these are open source communications, the ability for governments to be able to monitor these types of communications, they just don't have the level and scale. Yes, can they set up a listening post? Yes, they can. But to do this on a national level, it is virtually impossible for the government to be everywhere at once with these things. So my point is that in all of this is that we should become proficient, and during that time, using it to have fun and using the equipment. If you don't transmit, at least using it and listening. I would encourage you to transmit. I would encourage you to learn more, maybe get your amateur radio license. But you can go out, buy a set of these radios and use them on the MURS frequencies and start using them, license free. And I just did this because it's a prop. But radio like this, Citizens Band radio, license free. You go out and buy it, start using it. It's got weather band built into it. This is just a portable shortwave radio, but this does AM, FM, and shortwave. This gives you the ability to monitor. The government could use the weather band to give us information. The AM FM radio, we could get information. Shortwave, this shortwave radio can also monitor HF amateur radio communications. So if you're not a licensed amateur radio operator, you could listen, to amateur radio communications on one of these. So I also have a mobile CB radio, just some props to hold up here is all it really is. So let me just make sure, I kind of covered like personal liberties, and my explanation is to where I had this disagreement with somebody. It's not a big deal, but I thought as a whole, the YouTube group kind of would explain, my thought on, why we should have these things. And or another thing is like storable food. People go, oh, you got all that stupid food stored. Well, they're like, oh, what do you think, there's going to be zombies? Well, that's largely unrealistic. What if you lose your job? If you got 6 months worth of food stored up, you can eat that. That doesn't have to be an end of the world scenario. You bust out your storable food. That could be you just losing your job and trying to make your money go farther for a few months. So saying that this is not a lifeline communication is not necessarily true. We can use this for fun, but there could be that one instance we could use this to gather information, and we could use this to coordinate with other people. Communications. So, so we kind of covered the open source type thing. So my next thing is, you're asking yourself, okay, so what is this? What is Minuteman and Commo? What does that mean? I think at a basic level, and before people hop on me about the comments, the hams are the hall monitors of YouTube. It is obnoxious. I'm talking at a base level, somebody coming to this channel, that there's a lot of people that are interested in prepping. And prepping doesn't necessarily have to be a dirty word. In the old days, it was just living. People growing food, having spare parts for their tractor. It was just called living life. Now it's called prepping. Prepping sometimes gets associated with this like anti-government zombie type thing, and it's just being the person responsible in your household, to take lead, to take charge, to be able to get that information, to be able to help make decisions. So at a bare minimum, I think you should have a room dedicated in your home. It could be the corner of your living room, it could be the basement, it could be in your garage. Somewhere that's preferably comfortable during the seasons, all the seasons of the year where you live, so that you're willing to sit out there. And I think this area should be utilized once a week. If it's while you're having your cup of coffee on the weekend, just sit there for an hour. If you don't want to talk, that's fine. But put the stuff on, tune around the band, listen. So what should you have? At a minimum, you should have a CB radio with an outside antenna. This is a very base level video. I'm not going to get into specifically how to put the antenna in. If I see some interest in this, I will do a series of videos to get more into that for the people that don't necessarily know what to do or how to do it. But at a minimum, you should have a CB radio in this nook or area in your home. You can call it the situation room. You can call it, the military guys call it the talk, whatever you want to call it, the war room. I don't care. You should have some sort of an MURS radio. Something, maybe a set of these, or a mobile radio with an outside antenna to greatly extend your range, or just a set of these. I'll tell you right now, these are real handy around the home. And I was doing an electrical project one day with my wife, and I'm in the basement trying to flip, breakers on a breaker box that aren't labeled correctly, to be able to go flip a breaker. Did that do it? Yep. No. Yep. These things have handy uses around the home. I think you should have a GMRS radio. Now, if for some reason this is a little much for you, and you're saying just get the CB radio and some sort of VHF, UHF scanner, which will allow you to monitor MERS and GMRS. But I'm thinking best case scenario, you should have a CB radio. MURS, they do not require a license. GMRS does require a license, but you could monitor it as long as you don't transmit without a license. If you really get into this stuff, getting a ham radio would be great. I would also recommend some sort of a shortwave radio. They do make tabletop models. This is a portable one. You can't really use it with an external antenna, but you know, something to do shortwave radio. An AM/FM radio, because we can use that to get local information. A radio capable weather band. Some CBs now come with weather band in them. The reason why I say that is you can get weather information, and governments do have that as part of their plan to be able to communicate with the public through the National Weather Service channels. A TV that is capable of receiving over-the-air TV. A scanner, and with the scanner you can monitor public safety frequencies like your local fire department, you know, your local public works, and paper maps. Cell phones like Google Maps, unless you have some sort of app on your phone that works without a data signal, the maps don't work. So I recommend something like paper maps. Have this little nook in your home. Just sit there, turn the stuff on, turn the knobs, listen, have a notepad and a pen and paper, make notes of what you're hearing. This is going to get you used to using the equipment and making notes of what you hear during certain times, and it's going to kind of get you more adept at becoming comfortable with the equipment. And I would recommend, when you get this area set up in your home, to have a bag set up with a portable radio, a portable CB, like this President, and a portable shortwave radio with spare batteries in that bag, so you can take that out into the field and become more adept at using it. So in the event that you can't rely on your phone, you have multiple forms of communication: shortwave, local government, national government, local communications like MERS and CB. You have all these sources because we've become so reliant on our phone, and what we've found is now that we cannot trust, and I try not to get too political with my channel, our government is tightly controlling the information for good, bad, and indifferent. So right now, the current administration that is in power has the narrative that they want public to get. If there's a different administration in power, conservative, that doesn't necessarily mean that's good or bad for the average public. So, you know, when people are watching this, I'm not trying to make a political statement. I'm just saying right now, the people that are in charge, we know that they were trying to control the narrative of what was said on social media. It's much more difficult for John Q. Public to be able to talk to somebody the other end of town about what's going on. You can freely communicate on these. And like I said, before anyone says, oh, he's this, he's that, you could get a different administration in power that maybe they're more aligned with your politics. They may have a narrative that they're kind of control. You need to do what's best for you. So I think there's one more page here. So I would start out with what you can afford and very basic with your family. Maybe you just get a couple portable radios and you start getting on YouTube. You start learning about CB. I think CB is a great alternative because it gives you the HF properties where you can communicate long distances across the world, but you can also communicate locally. So I think like CB and MERS is like a good mix. You get that VHF strong local communications, and you get CB where you get the good long range local communications, but when the conditions are appropriate, you get the long range where you're communicating all over the world. So I think you should start out with your family. Start small. As you try to bring people in, family, neighbors, friends, get them to get a MERS radio, and you guys start talking. You know, I know sometimes here locally on the CB, guys will put the local game on and they'll kind of talk back and forth. Well, I've heard that, or they'll put a UFC fight on and they're watching the fight at home and they might comment on things on the radio. It doesn't all have to be, you know, Wolverines and, you know, the chairs against the wall type stuff. Make it fun, you know, so that you want to do it. So I guess I'll kind of wrap this video up. You know, like I said, don't worry guys, I'm gonna, you know, I try to keep it kind of fun on here. I got the Radio Man lab coat on today, and you know, I guess if I see some interest in this video, you know, I might kind of break out in little pieces to make it digestible. All right, when you set your radio up in your home, this is what you need to do. Or I might do, you know, like I said, my channel's largely focused on CB radio. Like I said, and I know people, if you've made it this far into the video, I know that people, like, they go, oh, ham license, ham license. There's just people that aren't going to want to do that, guys. They're just going to want to go out and go on walcottradio.com and just, you know, plunk down their credit card, buy a CB radio, and be done with it. Because they're like, I don't want it. They don't have the time or the bandwidth or whatever. They can get a CB radio and they can start using it, and they can start listening to local communications, or they can start talking when the DX is going on the band. So let's just kind of keep that in mind. You know, I try to keep my channel focused back on the CB radio because there are a lot of other channels out there that cover GMRS, cover ham. I'm trying to kind of, you know, do CB and try to keep it fun. But I've done a few of these prepping videos. Seems like there was a little bit of interest in it. So I think I'm going to wrap with that. And this is the Radio Man signing off. And, you know, just keep those radios ready to go. Radio Man out.